Hey everybody, got another one up on the table today. Gonna be SunSpot from the X-Men. 90s style, a little bit of one of the odd suits. And just gonna be sharing this over with the page real quick, and then we're gonna jump right into this and knock it out. So, bear with me just a second. And yay, we're successfully live with everybody online. Cool deal. Hey, how's it going, guys? Just making sure I've got my spot in range here. So, yep, what I'm going to be doing is going around this suit. I've got another spot here I want to erase real quick. I'm just going to be working around this suit real quick to get this done. We're going to see how it comes out. Going to go in with a super bright yellow because I'm going to tank this with a heavy orange, which will give it that deep, vibrant pop. Pencil shavings on the back of my hand. It's where I just emptied my massive sharpener and sharpened some of these up before I came on. Just kind of coating this a little bit. Like I said, it's going to come out in this orange and gold looking yellow whenever it's done. It's going to be a bronze type of color. And it's going to be pretty cool, I hope. Here's more of the chest piece. It's been a while since I did this one. It was earlier on, and I set it aside because people request specific pieces, and this was more of the filler checklist type of piece, and it was hit and miss. I did enjoy doing this one though, because he's such a abstract character to begin with just being a silhouette. It's really cool to be able to get that armor in place and make it really, really ring out. But when I did this one, I wanted to keep it color dependent, like the comic book version is, because of the fact that this particular character is not very he's not very diverse, you know what I mean? I don't know if that translates or not, but for me, he's not very diversified and not very unique. This character's been done numerous times. Firestar, let's see, Sunfire. There's just numerous characters. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. This character's just been done over and over and over. And I'm not really... I love the X-Force team, but I wasn't really keen on this particular character because of that fact right there. So, you know, he just didn't really stand out to me as a unique character. He's been done 20,000 times over. So, but, I mean, he's still a member of the team, and it's still an effective character as far as that goes with the X-Men, especially, you know, when they didn't have the Fantastic Four property, and when Sunfire dies off for the 80th time. I mean, I think they're on like incarnation 7 of him right now at Marvel, and I don't even know that he's still active, to tell you the truth. He may not be, but anyway. I don't know. Now I'm going to come in with a darker blue on this one. This is just the base highlight blue. And I'll put in a darker tone because I know, yes, there are people telling me he is darker. He's like dark. So you got to highlight him. But you got to shade him down too. So, yeah, we'll get there. Hang tight, gang. We will get there. So it's always funny because people will watch the video from the abstract position, what I call the abstract position, which is from the wall without clicking into it, and it won't show that they're watching, but the view count will pop up. And then I get private messages like dinging like crazy in my ears. And it's like, ding, I want to suggest this. Ding, I want to suggest that. Ding, I want to suggest this. It's freaking hilarious. It's like, pop on and chat. Don't be hiding out over there. Be strange like that. But, to each their own. People get shy sometimes. Of course, it's kind of hard to hide, you know, when you're on Facebook. Even now, with still being able to hide behind a profile, you know, depending on what you post, people will drop you like a hot rock. But we don't discuss politics here, so it's all good. You know, I'm all of the freedom of choice of what you want to do and what you want to follow is your point. That's what democracy is all about, and we'll leave it there. So if anybody gets bent about that, then, you know, that's your choice to do so, and I respect that too. But just don't drag it here, because I will respectively delete you out of the comments, and I don't want to have to do that to anybody, because this isn't the forum for that. So please don't. But yep, I will say this: he was a cool character on the X-Force original series, which was great when he had the red and blue and the Batman style bandana mask, you know, over his face, which is funny because it was like, you know, you turn to a silhouette, dude. Why do you even have this mask on? I always wondered about that. But because I mean, he blacks out his face, so you can't really tell who he is unless you're Gideon and you read everybody. So gets weird like that. Hey, Martin. And excuse my sniffles. I was outside today, and it was a beautiful day outside, and some knucklehead caused some grief on the property, and I had to go fix a fence. I wasn't happy about that, but one of the neighbor's grandkids clipped part of the fence, and I had to put it back and replace some stuff on it. But anyway, let's see here. Going in with these fingers here, these knuckles, dink, 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 dink. Dark side, dark side, dark side, dark side. And we'll leave that highlighted. This character is really cool as far as the dynamic of the position and the look, and, you know, the body language that the character has to administer is always neat to watch, because I will say this, even though he's not that original in his powers, it's always cool to watch him you know, do what we jokingly call the Vogue, my daughter and I, because she will go in and watch these characters, and she'll be like, huh, you know, and do kind of noises and whatnot, and say that's the, you know, the Vogue of that character or the pose of that character. And it's always funny to watch that kind of thing play out. But yeah, some of these guys, you know, they look like they're over serious actors, and, you know, I mean, we have to do that in comics. We have to over exaggerate the look to make it look as aggressive. But being directors in the artwork for the visual storytelling in the form, you have to make the expression on the face and in the hands, and then thirdly in the body form. So I mean, this guy looks pretty solid, like he's just gonna tear somebody up, which is awesome. But then again, it may not necessarily be that way for everybody. They may not want to see him, you know, coming in and crushing it, as it were. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this real quick, like this. Boom, done deal. I'm just going to kind of darken this up and fill it in places and stack that color solid like that. Putting in these little notches here, these little fill-in spots, because I want the highlight to be on the outside, the exterior, because as I go in with the darker orange in a moment and give it that copper look and then the light brown to pull it together, it's going to look a little strange at first. You know, I need a little richer color because this around here is going to be fluid, and it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it's going to be solid. So, and then of course we've got the standard red X and the red button on the back of the hand here, whatever that's for. I didn't ever really know what that was for. I think that was just for aesthetic look, to draw your eye to his hands. Because when you do the hands like that, it just makes you just go pink red. It's a standing color that contrasts everything going on, and maybe that's why. But yep, very cool stuff. Very cool. I like the idea of bringing out multiple tones and things like this, because the more color that you have in it, the more accented light that it's going to have, and it's going to pull it out even more. A lot of people are afraid of color. I am not. I like it. Unless I'm supposed to draw it that way on purpose, you know, unless it's like the 70s and 80s style coloring that I'm doing a lot of now, because it's just, I don't know, it's more vibrant for some reason to have just the monotone color in that style of my artwork, because of the fact that these sketch cards are very, very simple and not as high in caliber as my finer detail work in my comics. And it's not because of the fact that they're any less important to me. I love doing these things, and some of them have gotten pretty elaborate, but it still doesn't hold a candle to my line work, which I was of the training and of the mind that whenever you go into a comic book and you really pull it out, you should be driving the art force behind it to stand alone black and white. If your art doesn't stand alone black and white and doesn't tell a story without words, if you were to take away the color and it doesn't hold up, you're in trouble. If you don't have it stand up without the words being involved, you're in trouble. You know, that is all about that ability to storytell and then hold your own with drawing complete pictures and not being color dependent or ink dependent or any of that. In fact, you know, I mean, if it looks good black and white, you're going to be good to go. If it looks good in grayscale, you're good to go. But if it doesn't pull off, you know, in color and just need that color and it still looks flat, you're still at the point of needing some work. You know what I mean? I mean, that just is crazy to me how people go, well, I have a very color dependent style. And I used to say the same thing, and I was just like, you know what? No, I don't. Because my style doesn't need color at all. Because I can go black and white with my stuff, and I'm not bragging here by any means. I'm just saying I've trained myself and worked very hard to get to that point where my work will stand up black and white and will blow anybody else out of the water as far as I'm concerned with that position. Because if you look at some people's stuff, their work is beautiful in a line, but it's so over exaggerated and so overpopulated with cross hatching and, you know, in-depth imaging and all this mess and blah blah blah. There's so many different styles out there that will click and won't look good in pencils, but they'll look great in inks, and they won't look good in color, but they'll look good in black and white. And it just depends. Do you have your work look that way? I don't. I make sure that my work stands alone at every phase of it. And that's part of why I started this particular series of cards, because of the fact that I was building up a stamina of work where I was coming in and going, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing now, and this is what this lit needs to look like. And it gave me the chance to experiment and find out what my true voice in comics really is, even though that I already had a good idea of what was going on, because I've been doing this for, Lord, 20 years off and on between production and, you know, my other business activities. But yeah, it's just crazy stuff, man. I mean, you got to look at it from that perspective and say, okay, this is where it's at. This is where it's at. What are we going to do here, and bring it into play? And if you don't, you're wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels. Don't do that. But to each their own. I mean, find your voice, find your style. And then when people that always follow you, when your followers start disappearing because you make a change in your artwork, that's when you know you're doing something right. Because people will go, well, I'm losing followers. I got to get back to the old way. No, keep your new path, because if you're losing followers and they're not resonating with your artwork, you know what that means? You're doing the right thing, because you're growing as an artist and it's changed and you're getting your own voice. And I see that so many times. People will be like, I lost 30 followers today because I tried a new technique. And it's just like, so how many will you pick up tomorrow when they see that? Give it 24 hours and see. Test it. Wait to see what the market's responding to and how, and then just go from there and adjust. And you can't please everybody, so don't try. You're wasting your time if you're doing that. Well, I miss your Jim Lee style. Well, I'm not Jim Lee. I miss your Mudiara style. I'm not Joe. I appreciate it, but I'm going this direction. It's the way my style is progressing. That's the way it looks, and I have a very graphic style, so especially on my comic pages, you don't see it so much in this as much, but I'm getting there to where it's coming out in the new cards that I'm about to start working on, and you guys will get to see more of that. But as I progress and draw more and more, these cards are picking up. The Scarecrow and Man-Bat and things like that are really, really showing signs of that evolution. Because I'm working hard on that process, folks. Working it. But anyway, Jim O'Reilly, look at you, big sir. How you doing, man? And Antonio, thank you very much for making it. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to keep going on your style, you know what I mean? And you got to bust it out, and you got to work on it every day. Remember how I always say, if you haven't drawn today, you're not an artist. You know what I mean? It's like, but I drew yesterday. Well, yesterday you were a great artist. Today you're not. I'm sorry. You're only as good as your last drawing. Which may be why I'm losing people left and right, because of the fact that I haven't drawn anything new in a while, and I'm doing the coloring thing right now. But what people don't get is I'm doing progressive work on these, and the more I ink and the more I color, the better I get. So, as with anything, and that's the reason why I'm not drawing so many new pieces as I am coloring these in coloring sessions, because of the fact that I'm expanding the quality of the original work and pushing it to the limit. So I'm going to be doing a black and white series here pretty quick, where about 10 cards or so are just going to be nothing but grayscale. And we're going to bust those out, and they're going to be original pieces, of course. But I think I'm going to move that along, because what I've gotten is an interest in the Judge Dredd line, and I was thinking about maybe doing a set of 10 cards which are just Judge Dredd, and then coloring those black and white and grayscale, and go from there and see how they come out. Because originally Judge Dredd was black and white. I mean, it was a UK comic, UK Marvel comic first, and there was no big deal there. But as it grew in following and fandom, it got really big there for a while with Judge Dredd AD, which moved over to black and white for a little bit. It had a hardcore heavy metal look, a Euro type of look for a while, and then it went black and white, and it was phenomenal. And then they stopped doing it. All the fans were just like, yeah. And they had plans for DC Comics was about to start publishing Lobo that way, black and white, really hardcore, like they did the Savage Sword of Conan from Marvel, the bigger magazine style, like they did the Punisher. And they just never went through with it. And I was just like, why? I would so be a fan of that book. But I'm a huge fan of the Savage Sword of Conan, and Conan the Barbarian and the Conan the Saga and all that good stuff. I've got just about all of those books, just about all of them, and it's a list of creators you just can't get a hold of anymore, because it was the Silver Age Marvel artist bullpen from John Buscema all the way out to John Romita, Gene Colan, just so many famous people all over that book, all over any of them. And they had spin-off series because of the fact that there were so many different artists that wanted to do it. And yeah, I mean, that's just the way it went. They had so many people just breaking ground in there, because you could experiment with those books where you had to maintain the mainstream stuff with the other titles, and there was only so much you could do. But with those books, they went nuts. They did pretty much whatever they wanted to, and I loved those titles. And that's where I got to draw a lot of my stuff without tying into the industry for independent stuff until later. Because if you ever looked at the independent market, it was always obscure and strange books, and then it got into now where it's independent superheroes and superhero type stories, archetypes, and then you have other things going on as well. The Bones, Strangers in Paradise, stuff like that, which was in the 90s, which are huge influences on me. And then you had those mainstream Conan books and those old school Punisher books, which just totally blew it out of the water. And when Batman Black and White came out and they started doing something along the similar line, I was just like, yes, and they don't do any of that anymore. And The Walking Dead's pretty cool with the black and white and the gothic grayscale kind of thing going on, but it's pretty abstract. I mean, it's not like what I do. I do a more photo style, like it's a hardcore 60s or 70s exposure of film, rather than going through and chopping that up. So it makes a big difference. I'm just grabbing my red over here so we can finish that up. What's that button there? And my crooked little 90s X with my crooked little pencil tip and my crooked little circle. Let's see, got that going on. I think I'm going to go out here and I'm going to grab my Sharpie and I'm going to do something really, really neat. Because I'm going to spec these around here because I know what I'm going to do with them. I want to put a couple at random, not too many. Go ahead and put in a couple of small ones first, and then I'll go back and put the bigger ones. Like that. Always love some Kirby Crackles. If you don't do Kirby Crackles, you're not doing the X-Men any justice. You got to have one X-Men that you, at least one, where you do some Kirby Crackles. Because if you don't, it's just not, you're not doing it justice, man. You're not doing it justice. You just can't go overkill with these, because then you'll saturate it and it'll look like it's polka dotted, and that's weird. Don't do that. Don't do that. Put a couple of those connecting like that. A little trail off there. Get this top corner. Put a big one right in front of his face. Put one there, put one there, put one there. Yeah, that works. Cool. And if they get the little tail like that, that sometimes they do because the card shifts or whatever, you don't have to worry about that, because it looks like he's generating the energy anyway, so it doesn't matter because it looks like it's moving around him that way. And to me, it looks like it's in motion, so it's cool. So, got that down. Gonna give that a second to dry, and then I'm gonna come right in here and give it the old outline, as you guys know. You know what? I don't think I'm gonna do that right there. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave it white so he looks white hot right there. Try not to take off too much of my pencil there at the end of this thing. I'm going to go on the outside and do it like this. If I'm going to do it and talk about it, I'm going to do it right. Kirby Crackle. So that's technical term. Kirby Crackle. That actually is a comic book reference term. And if you don't know it, you don't know comics. So please, please study. Study the comics. Study. Let's see. Come in here, boom, like that. Yeah, I like it. All right, that's the first section I want to color. Then I'm gonna go down to that bottom corner, right here, a little bit. I don't want it to come in contact with him because I want it to look like it's working away from him there just a little bit, like that. Cool deal. And just to be froggy about it, I'll put a little patch right there. And see, this kind of thing has a 90s retro flair to it, and I really, really dig it. Primarily because of the fact that it is a 90s suit. 1990s, early 2000s. It varied a little bit, but yeah, cool deal. We're getting a retro. And you'll be happy to know Night of the Living Dead's coming up this week. Just about done with that bad boy. Got a couple pages colored and inked up this morning. Have a couple more to go. And I gotta get everything rocking and rolling to post this bad boy up with the site this week and the Comic Kickstarter podcast, which comes out this week. Yeah, I know. Sound like somebody stepping on my foot. This week. Oh, step over. But anyway, all joking aside, folks, here we go. We have SunSpot. Hope you dig it. I'm going to put a little bit of red in here just to kind of break things up a little bit. Kind of give him a cooling spot or cooling charge, as it were. Just every once in a while, not real heavy. Just kind of peeking through a little bit. Add some contrast. Like right in there. Down under here. Hit a little bit off the edge. I like getting these down slopes with a little bit darker red so that it pops up and kind of says, hey, I'm here, but doesn't overwhelm it. So I think that works. And now just to give it a little bit of a hard glow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brown and go right around the edge of the black. And I know this will sound funky at first, but just trust me on it, because what that's going to do is it's going to look like this is heating up the particles around him and they're burning off. So there we go. And it also gives a soft edge on the other side to that black hard line that I've got in there. So it'll break that down a little bit, and it'll look like it's a transition mark, like it's burning something, and that's the core burn in these little specks. See, that's what that's for. When you bring it around, it does this mess right here, and goes dink. See? Gives it a nice fluid look. A lot of people will be like, don't do that. No. Break down that line, because then it breaks down that hard edge. And like I said, it makes it look like it's more like energy moving, and where he's hot and it's hitting the cold air around him, this is the transition on both sides of that black line. And I didn't see that happen a lot. You know, not a lot of colorists would go in and bravely do this. But I do, because I like things to be in transition, in motion. And it just makes it have a richer look. Now I can go in with this really soft, bright orange, and go in here and mess with it just a little bit. And pull that out. And now what I'll do is when I highlight this, I'll make this look like the hot point and the white point around him with the Kirby crackles. And it'll look like it's like he's white hot, like he's ticked off, which most people won't do. And you know, I don't know, I just like him to be projecting off the most powerful source he can and generating white hot heat at the deepest point, and would take that kind of energy to that level. I mean, you know, Nova would do that, but not you know, Johnny Storm might do that, but not necessarily SunSpot. Now, I think I want to go on the outside of that too. To make it have a hard line shift on the blue. And it makes it look like it's got an edge where it's burning the atmosphere around him. So you can get real scientific with this, you know, and play around with it and say, you know, this is what causes this action, this is what causes this reaction, this is what causes this reaction. And when you think about this stuff, when you pan it out, it starts to play out in your head like it's a miniature story within itself as to what you're representing. And it'll make it pop off like no tomorrow. And I mean, it's just totally different in the way that you can translate that. So I'll go down here, put this one in, go down here, boom, 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 done deal, down on the corner here. Because now see, it looks like he's generating a white light around him. So with that said, I'm going to call that a day and call that done. I hope you guys dig it. Thanks, Omak. Yeah, go out there, try stuff, experiment. Don't be afraid of color. Don't be afraid of ink. Don't be afraid of pretty much anything when it comes to artwork. Just get it done and knock it out of the park. So I hope that works for you. I hope you guys got something out of that. I'm going to grab a quick gray here and highlight those eyes and those teeth like so. Right across the top there, just to give it a little warmth to it. Boom, done. All right, not touching anything else on this. Thank you guys for coming out and checking it out again this evening, being so late tonight. Like I said, sorry about that. I'm going to be doing a transitional cardinal piece some point for Apogee Comics. There you go. You guys can check that out. That print that I'm going to be doing special for them, that is their cardinal character. There's some demons coming in here, which I haven't cut in yet. But this is the start for that. And I'll be scanning that in and inking it and coloring it up for you guys for the print for their Kickstarter probably tomorrow. And until then, I'll see you tomorrow for another card as well. And we'll go from there, folks. You inherited this rock. You know the rule. Pass it on better than you got it. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.